Hello, guys, and welcome back to the Dancing Heart podcast, the place that empowers and inspires you to live in alignment with your heart and joy. I'm your host, Torney Wiggum, here to bring you deep conversations with inspiring guests about purpose, empowerment, and living in alignment. Let's get dancing into this week's episode. I am so excited for the guest that I have on this week's episode. Mona Gonzalez. She is a spiritual coach and a shadow work priestess. Welcome to the Dancing Heart podcast, Mona.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. Thank you for the warm welcome. And I'm so excited to be here. I'm so excited to get into this conversation. And I'm just so grateful to be invited to be an episode and be part of your journey and be a part of your success in your podcast. So thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, Mona. It's such an honor to have you here and to dive deeper into the conversation on the Priestess Path and women empowerment and how to really claim your divine feminine energy and power. And like I always do when I have guests on this podcast, I like to start with this one question, and that is, what makes your heart dance today?
Mm, let me feel into this. Okay. So, what really makes my heart dance today is being here on this podcast. I was thinking about this earlier and it literally made me want to dance. And just being here, being able to share my story and to have the platform to inspire the women to share my message, because I know that what we're going to talk about today is going to be really important. That really makes my heart dance is being able to, yeah, just share my story and inspire others to also courageously live a life of purpose.
I love that. You are in the right space. So let's just dive right into the conversation, Mona. And yeah, you are shadow work priestess. And I just would like to, can you explain what is that? What does it mean to be a shadow work priestess?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for that question. So I think I'll start at the beginning of my spiritual journey and kind of express and explain a little bit of what I went through, and then I'll go into like what it means to be a priestess.
Yes, give us some background information. I love that.
Yes.
Yes. Where did all
So
started?
So this all started probably around the same time that everyone else had a shift around 2020, 2021, right? Everyone's having their spiritual awakening, everyone's having these massive shifts in consciousness. And around this time is when I started to just go all in on my purpose. Because shortly before that, the year before, I had a ground shaking loss and I lost my mother. And that was just broke me into pieces. But from that rock bottom moment, it sparked the beginning of my spiritual journey, which is transformed to who I'm standing into today. And so a lot of the tools and teachings that I share with my community, with my clients, are literally the tools that have helped me transform and get to the place that I'm at today. So, so we know each other actually from Highest Self Institute, right? We met there, and that was really when things started to shift for me because I decided to go all in on my purpose and I'm going to become a spiritual life coach. And it was amazing. I made incredible connections. I learned so much. But deep inside, I still felt like there was something missing. Like I had my business, I had my offers, but I still didn't feel like I was fully embodied in my purpose. There was just something deeper. And I'll say, human design was an amazing tool to get me there, and like so many other things like tarot. But there was just another layer that was yet to uncover. And around that time, well, I kept hearing like priestess and priestess work, and it was just something that kept coming around to me. And it was almost like the universe was knocking at my door, was like ringing my phone. And I kept saying, not yet, like, not yet, I'm not ready yet. Because behind that priestess door, I knew was an uncovering of like shame around sexuality and like all the things that were holding me back from really feeling empowered. And so I resisted it for so long until one day it was during it was during the Lionsgate 88 portal. I was doing a meditation and I was imagining myself as the highest version of me. And it was a fully empowered, sensual woman, a priestess that was, embodied in her work like a spiritual leader. And I imagined myself as this person while doing like this breathwork session. And during this breathwork session, I received a message. It dropped down, and the message was so simple yet so clear, and it was exactly the shift that I needed to hear. And the message was, if not now, when? And I
Mm.
sat with that and I was like, oh my God, yes, what am I waiting for? Like, I'm old enough, like I don't have a partner right now. Like there's so much, like, what am I really waiting for? I just kept making excuses of why I couldn't follow this path. And so around that time, things started unlocking. I started finding the right mentors. I signed up for some priestess programs and I started to get initiated. And, and yeah, that journey just, since, since I decided, like, I am going to follow the priestess path, it was like the Pandora's door opened up and it was like limited possibilities that showed up for me and all these things started unraveling. And so the priestess path to me is the path, it is like another path, another level of a spiritual journey. It's like deeper self-discovery, and it's like a reclamation of our feminine power. Because many of us, and this isn't our fault or our parents' fault, but it's like ingrained in culture and society about how the patriarchy has shut us down as women and shut down our sensual energy, our sexual energy. And so a lot of our power will be found in the feminine shadows.
Mm.
And um, And yeah, oh my God, I just lost my train of thought. I was in this flow, but I guess I'll just pause right there and see if you have any reflections or thoughts.
Yeah, I love that it started. You kept hearing the word priestess, and you were just right there in front of you, and universe was kind of like guiding you on the way, and you're like, okay, let me just open the box. And when you opened the box, you said your spirit, there were unlimited possibilities that just open up, like, wow, a whole new universe on deeper work within your feminine, and also discovering more of your sexuality and sensuality and like taboo themes, that if you can say that, in our society, because this is something completely, it's not new, but it's like new to maybe talk about it, express it in this way that we are doing now, as we are stepping into a new earth of more of this divine feminine. And I know, like, this is the time of the feminine rising. So I love that for you, Mona. So what is it that a priestess does? Like, are you're helping other women to reclaim their power as feminine?
Yes, exactly. So, but not just that, right? So I feel like the priestess is the embodiment of the sacred feminine, right? So the role of the priestess is really to remain grounded, but providing guidance for for other people. So it's kind of like it's like the embodiment of the divine feminine energy. And that's why it's important to really like do the inner work and do the healing of like polarity, because we're not, and when I talk about like masculine and feminine, it's not related to gender. These are energetics, right? So
Yeah.
we can use yin yang if we feel more comfortable with that, or push pull, because the laws of polarity exist, and it's what does creation. So, so the role of the priestess is really to be like not only a spiritual leader and a spiritual role model of like the embodiment of the healing, but also be able to provide sacred space. And so, like the modern day priestess right now is the energy healer. It's the coach. It's the teacher that provides the safe space for the students. Like in ancient times, like priestesses were so important. They were so essential for the well-being of the communities and of society, because they were the oracles. They were the keepers of the land, because also one of the roles of the priestess is to be in touch with your own, with cycles, not just your own cycle like your menstrual cycle, but also like the lunar cycles, nature, the cycles of death and rebirth. So it's really like an embodiment of just everything that's the sacred feminine. And
Mm.
another thing that I'll say about the priestess path is that many say that it's a path of remembrance. Like many will feel called onto this path because, say, if you want to believe in past lives, maybe in a past life we were priestesses, we were ancient priestesses in Egypt, or we were priestesses in the goddess times, or so there is an inner calling that is calling many priestesses to step into the modern day priestess and embody the energy and be that source of light for others. And yes, because we are in this era of where we are, the feminine rising, like, the patriarchy is also very valuable, but it's like that there's so much toxicity that now we're trying to find balance.
Yeah.
And so I've always said that as women, I feel like we can be the leaders into this new paradigm, because we are the feminine, we are the women, so we can lead the way, we can provide the space for also men to get in touch with their feminine. So I really feel like the priestess role is just, it like many will say that you'll need to get training. And yes, I do believe that there is an initiation process, but I feel like because the priestess path is a path of remembrance, like I don't feel like you need a certification to become a priestess. I feel like it's already within you. You just have to awaken it and find your magic, find your intuitive gifts, share those things. And that's how you can step into the priestess role.
I love how you explain that. I'm like here with the goosebumps. And just your energy of just where it's coming from within you. It's so embodied, like the whole your whole journey and your whole experience. And I know that when I step more into my purpose and being the more embodied version of who I came here to be, I felt such inner peace. And I'm sure that you also felt some difference in the energy within when you decided to fully embody the priestess that you came here to be.
Yes, no, absolutely. And it wasn't easy. Like it wasn't just I decided and I stepped into it and I'm a priestess. Ta-da. I think that a big part of the initiation happens even before you step into it. It happens usually in the healing. I feel like to really embody the priestess energy, the priestess archetype, you need to do your own inner healing. Because to be able to meet the shadows of others, you need to know your own shadows. It's like what they say, you can only meet people as deep as you go yourself.
Yeah.
And so for me to be able to embody this, it took a lot of sweat and tears and, inner child healing and inner teenager healing. And for me to be in a place where I can be grounded, centered, even in the chaos, or even in, times where people are struggling. But I feel like a big part of being in this role is really facing your own shadows.
Yeah.
Because when you face your shadows, then you can, be integrated in your darkness, and then you can handle the darkness that is around you, and you can be like the embodiment of the light.
Yeah, and I know that you talked about emotions as messengers and using the emotions to alchemize. And can you give like some example of that you have used for yourself? Because there's just a range of emotions and it's just in a different spectrum. We like from on this side, and then you can transmute that to something on the other side of the spectrum, right?
Yeah. Oh, amazing question. Yes. Yes, I love to give these examples because so I grew up thinking, like, maybe some of the listeners, that emotions are weakness, or, vulnerability is weakness, and showing emotions is like bad, or being angry is bad. There's so much shame around expressing emotions.
Yeah.
But emotions is literally what animates our soul. When we're happy, when we're excited, we're high vibing, and people can feel us. If we're down, we feel shame, guilty, discouragement. People feel that. So it animates it. It is what what radiates from us.
The
And
frequency.
so, yes, exactly,
Mm-hmm.
frequency. And so emotional intelligence, or emotional mastery, is just getting curious behind your emotions, and not being so quick to label them as good or bad, and trying to escape the bad, and, like, pursuing the good. Because when we get curious on our emotions, and I'll share examples of, like, darker emotions, the ones we don't like, right? So one of my biggest transformers and, like, shifts in my life came from the emotion of envy. And I think a lot of us can feel envy, or we could feel jealous. And, we see somebody living the life that we wish we had. And there's like that hint of envy, and maybe some like evil eye, and, like, some like criticism or something. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. So, one of my bigger shifts into the priestess path came from envy, because I was sharing in a group of women, which is this is why it's so important to have a shame-free space, or women's circle, where you can share, the things that you're most shameful of. Because I was in a women's circle, and I was sharing about how I felt envy because one of my friends was wearing lingerie, and, like, dressing. She looked really sexy, and just like like very sensual expressed in her Instagram. And I was kind of throwing that shade and judgment. And in this share that I was expressing with these women, I realized that I was envious of her, because I wanted to be expressed in that energy, because I wanted to feel safe enough to, be seen, or feel sexy, or get sexy for myself.
Mm.
And so, because I use the envy as a reflection into my deepest desires. And that's now how I see envy always. It's always suppressed admiration. And so when we look at that envy, I was realizing that it was my shadow self denying my erotic self, which is the dark energy. And now I want to say really quick, shadow and dark energy are not the same. Dark energy and light energy, right? Light energy we're all familiar with. It's all sunshine and happiness and good vibes and nurturing, and the light feminine is very nurturing and happy.
Mm-hmm.
Darkness, or like the dark feminine, is more of like transforming and chaos, and it's boundaries, and it's more, people label it as bad, but that could probably be because of like churches and stuff. But yeah, I think that I'm going on another flow and I lost my train of thought. So I'll just pause right there and yeah, if you
Yeah,
want to say anything.
thank you for explaining those terms because I think like dark feminine, I it's labeled as bad. It's like what is the dark feminine? And people they don't know and that's why they are judging it, I think. So thank you so much for just explaining that. It's more about the inner work and putting some boundaries and really using that in order to step more into your power. That's what I hear.
Yeah, yeah. So, okay, I'll elaborate a little bit more. So, the shadow self, right, is when we suppress our darkness. Okay, the shadow self is the part that we're shameful of. It's like the jealousies, the insecurities, the envy, right? That's all the shadow self. But that's only because we suppress our darkness. But the darkness is yeah, it's power. It's There's light and dark, but neither is good or bad. We need a balance of both. But the thing is that with the patriarchy and everything that happened there and the witch hunt and all the women that were in their dark feminine energy, which is the mystic and the intuitive and the powerful and the wild, right? This A woman who is integrated and embodied in her dark feminine cannot be controlled or manipulated. And so this whole idea of how it's bad to be embodied in this energy, I think maybe that's where one of the ideas were formed. But in reality, and this is why I love Tantra so much, because Tantra speaks on the duality of how everything is holy. Nothing is good or bad. Like the rage is dark, dark energy, right? But if we can create a contained space, we could put intention behind it. I'll say that women hold a lot of grief and rage, especially in their womb. And the only way to really release that is through dark energy, through rage rituals, through screaming, through punching pillows, and that's what's labeled as bad, but it's not bad. We just need to accept that that's just a part of the human experience. And once we integrate our darkness, then that's when the shadow loses control. And that's where we feel more whole and integrated and happier. And we don't have as much shame and depression and anxiety because we feel more whole because we've accepted both the dark and the light.
Yes. I love how you explained that. Thank you, Mona. And I think there's a lot of women that is afraid of the dark feminine and really stepping into their sensuality because they are afraid to be seen as, this, I don't know, a sex object or somebody that is cheap or if they're showing too much of their body or if they like dancing in a sensual way. What is your experience around this? I'm sure you have helped a lot of women stepping into their power and in really embracing their sensuality and
Yeah, no,
also sexuality.
yes, no, amazing question. And yes, what I'll say is that when you're reclaiming your sexuality, your sensuality, I'll also distinguish that this doesn't mean sex. Okay, you can reclaim your sexuality and not have sex. And I'll share like a personal bit of my journey is that since I've started my spiritual journey, I became celibate, and this was over 3 years ago. And so, since I've been on my spiritual journey and into my priestess journey, it has been a path for me of reclaiming my sexual energy by remaining celibate and working on myself. And this is common in a lot of like priestess paths or like spiritual paths. People will take a vow of celibacy to really, do the spiritual healing and the spiritual work. But I feel like with reclaiming your sexuality, one thing that really shifted my awareness or my beliefs was that I grew up with the belief that my sexuality was for men, like for my partner specifically,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so, the moment I got my first boyfriend, my mom took me out to buy lingerie because now I can be sexy because now I have a partner, right? And this idea didn't shift until I was in my 30s, that
Wow.
somebody had told me, no, honey, your sexuality is yours. Your sexual energy is for you. Like, it's not for anyone else. And around this time is when I became celibate. And so I the way I reclaimed my sexuality, my sensuality was for myself. I started dressing sexy for myself. Like I wouldn't even leave the house, but I would just put on some cute clothes and I would put on mascara and whatever made me feel like, beautiful, whatever made me look at myself in the mirror and like, tell myself I look sexy. I tell myself I look beautiful all the time. I do it for me. And I know that, when I step out the door, now I confidently know that I'm dressed for myself. And so, whatever others want to see me as, that's their perception, and that's honestly their inner work if they want to sexualize me. But as long as I'm in integrity and I know my intentions and why I'm dressing the way I am, and I feel good about it, then I feel like that's what that reclamation is all about. And I can hold that frequency now, and I could be that example for other women who now they can see me expressed, or if I want to be expressed, or if I don't want to be expressed, I give them permission. And many times I'm just wearing like a hoodie. I'm not even looking sexy, but I feel sexy. And that's all that matters, is that I feel sexy.
Yeah, it's a feeling. It's not about how you look, it's more about how you feel. And you said that you started to wear and dress up for yourself and talk to yourself like, I am beautiful, I am sexy. And I'm sure you started, was that where you started to really reclaim your power as as a priestess and also as a divine feminine?
Yeah, absolutely. And what comes to mind is I used to practice this idea of self-worship. And so
Mm,
I would worship myself. Like I would just treat myself like I'm a goddess and, look at myself and listen to goddess affirmations. I think that's also a really important thing is when you're stepping onto the priestess path, sometimes it could be really scary. And there's like that identity shift, right? And what will people think? Because the taboo and, it's like, what will people think? It's
yeah.
like the thing
Yeah.
that I kept thinking. Like, I don't want people to think that I'm a sex worker because that's not at all what I do, So there is so much shame that you personally will need to untangle for yourself. But that is part of the journey because that will be the medicine that you have to share with your community.
Exactly.
And so yeah, that's what I'll say for now.
Yeah. And you said the identity shift of
Mm,
stepping into that. And I think there's a lot of fear and there's a lot of shame of like, what do other people think of me? Like, and I think now we are in this time of awakening, and more people are waking up to their priestess journeys. And I know that
yeah.
to reclaiming their feminine power. And maybe they are in normal jobs or like just discovered about the priestess path or the divine feminine and really are curious, but then they are in between two worlds. So, what would be your advice to those feminines? Just really, their soul knows that this is the path, but their ego is kind of like, that is crazy.
Yes, I love it. Such amazing questions, such great questions. Yeah, I totally feel that. I had a huge identity shift and yeah, it could be even bigger like if you have like a normal job. Like I know a priestess, she was initiated, but she hasn't came out of the closet yet and it's like, scary for her to do it. What I would suggest is community. Either finding a community of other priestesses or finding communities that like when we're shifting into this new identity and we're being held down by our past selves that we're trying to escape from, we got to kind of start looking for people that we want to be like or that we look up to and like surround ourselves with them and start trying to think about how do they think, like what are some of their beliefs, so you can do that in community. You could hire a coach like one on one, right? And have like somebody who can like directly help you untangle what's holding you back. And, because if you have that calling, if you feel it in your soul, it is meant for you. And it's going to be the highest path that you can step into in this moment. And so all the fear and all the worries behind that, I mean, like I said earlier, it is going to be the medicine that you're going to share once you're on your priestess path. Like once you're fully integrated and then you can help people transition the same way you transition. So as the priestess, I feel like we are meant to be the leaders. Like we are meant to kind of like pave the path, right? To then teach others from our wisdom, from our experiences, our learned wisdom, we can share others so then they don't feel so lonely on their path.
Yeah, because it can be lonely to have this awakening of, hey, but I am really something else than I thought I was. And I think everyone that's been on their spiritual journeys and their awakening is like, oh, really? Is that who I came here to be? That's completely different what I thought. And it's really hard. Like it can be a struggle if you don't have the community. So yeah, that's a very great tip on searching out to people and to other women that's on the same path that where you are going, and hire a coach, or yeah, just being in a like-minded community, because you are feel so safe and where you feel seen and where you can just express from your heart and soul without any judgment. And I know that you
Yes.
also are a part of a big community of uh, other priestesses.
Yeah, so I have a few communities that I'm a part of, but there's one that I'm leading right now, and there's one that I'm starting by next year I'm going to be launching. But right now I have a community of women and it's called the Sacred Sensual Sisters. And it's a free community right now, and we get together every month and it pretty much it's just a woman's circle. We just get together once a month for 2 hours and we just share vulnerably in a sacred space that isn't recorded. Everybody is a woman there. Like we all share and sometimes we receive advice or sometimes we just want, to be held. But it's so beautiful because we get to like resonate from each other, right? One shares a story and it kind of activates another. So although she didn't share, now she's more curious about herself. And the things that we talk in there are so beautiful because we talk about like pleasure and sensuality and we talk about, sexuality and partners and we even talk about the dark feminine and we talk about, how we can use sacred kink and like BDSM for healing. And so it's, we talk about sex work and it's a space where, shame free, it's just come in as the human that you are. And I think all of us women, we crave that. We crave to be wild. We crave to be a little dark. Like we crave to be sensual and erotic. And, it's in our nature to be wild and free. And so that's actually like the next evolution of community that I'm building is now the empowered priestesses. and building a community where we can get together and empower each other and become leaders in our own community, become our own priestess. Like maybe you're a priestess, like a green priestess that's connected to herbalism and nature, maybe you're a cosmic priestess and you are the one, that does astrology, or, the witchy priestess. Like there's so many different like magics that we each have. And I feel like we can all, like, if we just embody that priestess and just like embody our gifts, then we would inspire and we would have so much to share and we'd be able to make such a profound impact.
It's true. And when more people are stepping into their power, the ripple effect of that is more women that it's looking up to and like, I want what she has. I want to be in that power, in this confidence, in this having this groundingness within you and just feel at peace and just be, yeah, from that frequency of this divine feminine power. And I think it's so beautiful. And I'm sure that we're going to see a lot more people really stepping into their power, and especially women. And because of this feminine, a lot of this feminine energy has been suppressed for so many years. And I know that we talked about this for you being, you were born and raised in Costa Rica, and this Latin culture around this feminine and the masculine. And you said you, when you had your boyfriend, that was the time when you got to be sexy. So, but we are changing this around.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, the patriarchy was just a huge influence in like my family, my culture. My dad's Colombian and very machista. And I have seen personally firsthand how the suppression of feminine energy has not only affected women, but it is affecting men on the rise right now. Men right now are going through their epidemic where they have never felt more lonely, and their suicide risk is like on the rise, and there's so much suppression because they lack that connection. They feel very lonely. There's a rise in like not only suicide but like addictions. In addictions is also Gabor Mate talks about how addiction is just a side effect of disconnection, like connection with people. And
Mm,
so, when we as women can embody both the feminine, the divine feminine energy, which is the nurturing, it's being the love, the frequency of love and nurture. And then when we can learn to heal our masculine and integrate our masculine, we can become the space and the container to invite men to be in their feminine, which is, I feel like, is something that men need, is more spaces to be in their feminine, to be in their submission, to be in their softness, to be able to let go, to express their feelings, to dance. Like we as women are the leaders in this because we are the dancers. We are the ones who get together and gather community. And, we're amazing at that. And so
mhm.
we can start creating that, not just for women, but we can teach women to do that in their own communities, like for both men, women, children. The priestess is it's just the pillar of light. Like there is no certification that's needed. It is just an energy. It is just a frequency. And it is what heals the community without even trying. You just are. You just are the priestess. And it that ripple effect that, yeah,
Mm.
you make an impact in your family, you make an impact in your community, you make an impact in your clients. And it's just such a beautiful, I feel like it is such an honor to be able to say, like, yes, I am a priestess. I embody this role. I step into it. I think that's just, yeah. I mean, you could tell my passion right now. It's just,
Yeah,
I
I
feel
see that you're
radiant.
glowing, you're radiating that priestess energy. And I love how you talked about the divine feminine and embodying both energies within yourself. And then so more men can also step into this space of community and to lean back into their feminine energies. It's just energies. It's not about being more feminine or being more masculine. But and I love that because from the patriarchy system, it's more you need to do more, you need to work hard, and men should are the provider and the but now it's just a woman too. Like I know I've been too much in my masculine energy. And also as a single mom, I do all the work for them for the just the mom and the dad. And there are a lot of single moms out there. But how is it to how does it look like feel like to embody the masculine and the feminine? Like what are the practices that you can like I have some for myself, but to tap into to really like be aware of when am I too much in my masculine and when do I need to more like the feminine and the masculine balance within myself?
Yeah, no, great question. I feel like it's just like an all the time practice, like an all the
Yeah,
time alignment.
it
Like it is
is.
like a constant like awareness and alignment because masculine, feminine is like plus, minus, positive, negative. Negative is not bad. Negative is just for a battery to work. Like we need both of them, right? And feminine is, yeah, that rest, that reflection. It can be like expressing emotion. And then the masculine is more assertive. It's like the space holder, it's the presence, and I think like really it's an integration of like your own masculine and feminine energies. Like I did so much healing in like my feminine and my masculine that was like out of balance. But then once you can master your own inner harmony and inner balance, then I think it's very intuitive for us as women, especially, to know what's needed in the moment. You know, like, oh, do I need to hold space right now? Or does this person need like nurturing or, so and I think it's just like a practice. It's like a constant alignment, but it's like making sure you take time for yourself when you need it. But it goes in like daily times, but then also it's like times in life, like phases when it's like, oh, I'm in my masculine phase and right now I'm in my feminine phase. So yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I would say.
It's a balance. And when you were talking, I got this you when you know when you are connected to your intuition. So I think it starts with like, okay, you need to connect within yourself so you can get the clarity from your inner wisdom and from your intuition. And that's how you also started your path on this priestess path. So the intuition, I think that is the number one to be aware of that and to listen to it and to trust it.
Yeah, no, it's such a great point to highlight because I feel like to really be embodied in the priestess role, you need to do the inner work and you need to do the self-discovery. Like you need to understand who you are. You need to understand your values. Like what do you stand for? What is your passion? What is your purpose? What are your gifts? Like you have to be really in tune with who you are at your core, and then do the healing, do the integration, meet with your inner child, meet with your inner teenager. Like it is a whole process. And I mean, one thing for me that has really been such a cornerstone in my journey has been human design, because human design gives you that permission to be your truest self and to understand yourself deeper and to know how your intuition speaks to you. Do you feel it in your emotions? Like, do you have to talk it out loud? So I feel like that first phase is really important to like discover who you are in the core, like you're energetically. And then you can start stepping on that priestess path and start integrating. Because I feel like the priestess path is like the integration part. Like now you're meeting your shadow. You're walking on the priestess path. Now it's time to meet your shadow. And then that is like the whole initiation period of like transforming and, alchemizing and getting your medicine and, like fine tuning like your identity as the spiritual leader in your community. And then once you just feel it, you just know you're ready. Like, I am ready to share. Like, you just know, like, okay, I've received enough trainings, like, I've read enough books, like, I am ready now to share, because you only need to know just a little bit more to help out the person who's, just a few steps behind you. And so, yeah, it's really just like claiming that you are ready and just saying yes to the path.
Yes, just say yes to the path. Yeah, exactly. And it's a process, like you said. It not, doesn't come overnight. You just have
Mm-hmm.
this inner knowing that this is the path for you, and you just start uncovering more of who you are. And then you dive deeper into your shadow work and you alchemize that and transform that so you can really be embodied in the priestess that you came here to be, however priestess you would like to be. And you say you are, or you are a shadow work priestess.
Yeah, yeah. So it's, self-titled. Like, I didn't get a certification for this. This is just, I have always been drawn to the dark goddess. I've always been drawn to like dark energy. I'm a Scorpio. I have lots of Scorpio. You're a Scorpio as
Yeah,
well.
the Scorpio sisters.
Yeah, so I've always loved depth. I'm also a projector, so I see people deeply. And so I've always really been interested in the taboo too. I've always been interested in taboo. I've always been curious about kink. Like, there's always like so much sexuality that I've been interested in. And so part of my path has been to allow myself to explore these things, to share about these things, allow myself to go into my own darkness and to explore what's there and to test things out. And so I have found so much empowerment in some of these tools that people would call like kinky or naughty. But I have learned that you can use some of these tools for self-empowerment because I've done them for myself, and I've shared these tools with other people. And so, and I feel like oftentimes when you play in this darkness, it's like embody parts work. It's like you are playing, you are allowing yourself to, okay, what would it be like to say if you have like the shame of like being slutty, right? But then, okay, say that, okay, I'm gonna play around with it and see how I feel. You're just in your room, it's contained, like, you dress however you want and you just play around with it. And maybe you might accept it, and maybe that becomes a part of you that, you get to play with whenever you feel alone or you want to tap into something erotic. And there's nothing wrong with that. So I'm a real big advocate into like exploring your shadows, exploring your darkness, because oftentimes, like, not only do we find like the shame and the guilt there, but sometimes we find our greatest powers. Because if, like, for example, I grew up in a family where we kind of, we didn't want somebody to shine brighter than us. So if somebody was shining brighter than us, then we would kind of like shame them and you shut them down, right? And so what I found is that some of my biggest shame points were my greatest gifts. And I was ashamed of them because growing up it was considered bad. But it's like, like my leadership, right, was kind of like, oh, you're bossy, and it was labeled as this and that. But then once I was able to like integrate and say, you know what, I'm going to step into this. Like, I'm going to allow myself to be assertive. I'm going to allow myself to, speak my truth and like walk my path. And that is the dark feminine energy. And so I allowed myself, and now I'm not as explosive in my shadow. Like, I'm not as shameful. Like, I've integrated like parts of me where now I feel more empowered. I feel at peace. I feel more centered. So I'm such a big advocate to, yeah, exploring the parts that we push away, right? So we can find like the nuggets and the wisdoms and all the gold that's hidden, because that's like where our power lies.
Oh my God, yes. And just play. I love that word so much because it's no shameful. Just play with it. Like you can do whatever you want and just get to play. Allow yourself to play more. I think that is such a big permission slip. Like just go out and play. You don't have to
Yeah,
be perfect. You just have to play and explore. And thank you for
yeah.
also thank you for sharing like, hey, in my family, if somebody shined brighter than others, there would be like, don't do that. That's shameful. And how is that now that you're like shining full in your fullness as a priestess? How was that? I wouldn't say transition, but how is did you get any reactions from your family? Because I know that is kind of like, okay, I'm gonna say out loud that I'm a priestess in my family.
Yeah, I love you've had such amazing questions. So I feel like for me, right, and my journey, my priestess journey. So I currently live with my family. And so it's interesting because I've been stepping into my light more and more as I'm still under the same roof of the same people that would shame me for being in my power. So
Wow.
for yeah, so it's been quite the journey, but I feel like it was meant to be and part of my soul curriculum to really get to where I am at right now. Because triggers, people are like, oh, you triggered me. We give away our power and we tell people that other people angered you, right? But when we can see triggers as opportunities for growth, and to see, okay, what's being triggered inside me, right? And not give away the power to another and say, oh, it's your fault, but see, like, okay, what part of me wants to be illuminated, wants to be seen, then we can use this as an opportunity for growth. And we can use that as like the curiosity, back to what I said earlier with the emotions, getting curious. Okay, why am I upset? Why does this upset me so much? Like, why is this triggering me? And so living with my family and being triggered constantly because I am
Yeah.
still I'm going to step in my light whether you don't like it or not, has given me like almost like a fast path to growth, because it's like every day I'm getting opportunities to see why I don't feel worthy or why I don't feel sexy or why I don't feel safe. And so it has been both a blessing and a curse.
I
So
can imagine.
it has been quite the painful journey to get to a point now where I can regulate my triggers and see them as projections. Like it's not about me. It's about I am like reflecting to my family in places where they are not healed, places that they are not empowered, in places where they are not stepped into, their vision. And so I'm creating this ripple effect, and it's a negative one because it's triggering everyone around me, but it's an invitation to heal. And so the priestess path is not just, standing in the light and being healing energy all the time. It will require triggering others, but that is the healing. That is just a part of healing, is being that dark feminine energy who stands in her truth, and maybe she upsets the women around her because she's dressed sexy and knows what she's worth. But now, that is an invitation for these women to say, okay, well, where are you not reclaiming yourself, like loving yourself? Like, where are you letting yourself go, when you can be taking care of yourself more and feel better about yourself?
Mm.
Yeah.
That's great. I love that you said yeah, you're getting opportunities every day in order to grow and to look more within so you can alchemize that and step more into your light and into your unique power. And you are still living with yeah, with your family and you're doing this work. And I think that it takes a lot of courage and it takes a lot of empowerment to really to do the work that you are doing, and especially in this environment. I know that you have a support and community too, but in your day-to-day life it's so much harder when you have the triggers literally in the same house. So yeah, wow, Mona, you're such an amazing priestess, and this path has been, yeah, just listening to your journey and sharing your wisdom of the priestess path. It's been really, I'm feeling super, it empowers me too, you know, to step more into that energy and to reclaim more of my feminine power. And I'm sure that the listeners also going to feel that, wow, I'm going to reclaim more of that too.
Yeah, I love that. And I hope so. I hope that this gives permission for other women to, claim their desires, claim their power, claim their sexuality, like, be a dark feminine. I know that many women, we suffer with this people pleaser mentality where we just want to please everyone else. But the most important relationship we have is with ourselves. It will always be we come here with ourselves, we leave with ourselves, nobody else comes or leaves with us. And I think that, the discovery portion of it, of like the self-discovery and getting in touch with like who you are, your authentic self, your power, I think that's just so important. And it's just, really having that relationship with self is what this is all about. And the priestess path is like really doing that for yourself first and being the embodiment so you give permission for others to do that for themselves too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what it's all about. Yeah, reclaim your power so other people also, other women can also reclaim their power because you are in your power. And you,
Yeah, you're giving them a possibility or
yeah,
an example of what is possible.
yeah,
If I can do it, we can all do it.
it's true. Wow,
Hmm.
this has been such an amazing conversation, Mona. Thank you so much for having it and for inviting us all into the priestess world and into the divine feminine energy and power.
Yes, this is so wonderful. Thank you so much. Amazing questions. I loved this conversation. It was just so beautiful and so nourishing for me. And I just love being able to share and like thank you so much for this platform.
You're welcome. So I just want to finish or wrap it up with a question. If somebody now is like in the beginning of their priestess journey, they know that that's the way, that's their path, what advice would you give them? Or basically to your younger self?
Yeah, I think I mentioned it earlier. I think community is super important, especially when you're dealing with areas where you have shame. Having the support because it's really hard for you to like break out of this, if you don't have like that nurturing space. And so I would say that also there's a few books that I would suggest. There's this amazing book called Womb Awakening. And I feel like it is the textbook for the priestess path. I recommend it to anybody who's on the priestess path. Also, I would say that, and this is something that I wanted to like mention, but I know that we're running out of time, but womb healing is
Yeah.
so important. I feel like, I mentioned it earlier about how women hold so much shame and grief and rage in our wombs. I think that really doing like a womb cleanse, our wombs take on energy. And so if somebody enters us, another man enters us with bad intentions, then, not good intentions, then that can be imprinted in our womb. And so really doing that womb healing because the womb is connected to the throat and that's like expression, that's where our witch wound is. And there's so much more that I could share, but definitely just like those tips. And of course, like I'm always available for support. I have new programs that I just released for like women who really want to reclaim their sensual power, reclaim their feminine power, and and uncover the shadow work, because I feel like the priestess path is not for everyone. You know, you're either called to it or you're not. Just like how I don't feel like I'm meant to be an astronaut because I don't feel called to be in space. You know, you either desire it or you don't. And so if this is a path that you truly desire, then having that support, having that community, having somebody who can help you integrate your shadows and like face them and face, you know, whatever it is that we're hiding and we're running from, I think that that is really what's going to accelerate anybody's path and will help them take the courageous steps that they need to take to get them to where they want to be.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing, Mona. I was just, when you said, when you started to talk about womb healing and womb cleansing, how do you do a womb cleanse?
Yeah, so for me, I went the celibacy way, right? And it's been years for me, but I would suggest either like a few months, like three, if you're in a partnership, like maybe a few months, you know, and let your partner know that you're doing a cleanse. Because like energetically too, right? You don't want, if you're doing like a detox, you want to be more mindful of like, you know, what, like the products that you're using, like the way that you're self-pleasuring, your intention. Also, like there's many that talk about yoni eggs. Yoni eggs can be very powerful healing tools, crystal wands, yoni steaming. Like these are all tools that the priestesses can use. You know, there's, you know, if you're a womb priestess or a pleasure priestess, like these will probably be things that interest you.
Mm,
So I think like really just being intentional also with like what you put in your body, you know, like what is your womb asking for? Like connecting with your womb, doing meditations with your womb. For me, rage was so healing. I mentioned it earlier, but like, you know, doing primal screams into a pillow, like that will help open up the energy and like the stuckness and the trauma. Many women, we have sexual trauma that we've suppressed and memories, and so there's just so much that the womb holds. And so really being intentional in healing just is awareness. Once you have awareness, you've started the healing process. So, you know, healing the sacral, like eating, I like to eat orange foods when I'm healing the sacral. So, like carrots and sweet potatoes. And, you know, there's just so many resources and ways that you can do a womb cleanse. But really honoring your womb, I think, is like that's where it starts. It's like honoring your womb, getting in touch with your womb, and really seeing it as, you know, sacred. Your pleasure is sacred, your sexuality is sacred, your womb is sacred, your the touch is sacred. Like, you know, really all of this awareness I think is just so important.
it is. Wow. Thank you, Mona. And also with the creativity, because that's also a feminine expression that's in our womb. So is that also a way to get in touch more with our creativity to go into the womb?
Yeah, absolutely. Creativity. I love that you brought that up. And also like, you know, going to the beach, being near water, like, you know, yeah, the creativity oftentimes like when you're on a creative project, sometimes your sexuality, sometimes you won't want to have sex if you're partnered because you're so creating something, you know? So there is like that connection between sexuality and creation. And so, like, for me, when I became celibate, um, I pulled back all the sexual energy that I was giving to others, and I decided to channel that energy for my personal growth, for my priestess path. You know, that's like something else like sexual alchemy, where we can actually like transmute sexual energy into creative projects. And so, yeah, healing your womb will awaken your creativity. It will awaken your voice. It will awaken your throat chakra. You know, there's so much that will start awakening for you once you start healing the womb and like awakening the energy and honoring the energy. There's just so much power in our womb, so much sacredness. And so, yeah, there's just so much I could say about that.
Wow. So, wow, thank you, Mona. This has been a really it's been a journey of the feminine, and I love it. And you said that you have this community meetings every month, which is for free.
Yeah, so I have this
When is the next
community.
one?
So the next one is next month. I actually haven't scheduled it yet, but starting next year, it's gonna be like a reoccurring thing. We usually have them on the first Friday, and the time varies, but it's like the first Friday of the month because Friday is ruled by Venus, and Venus is the planet of the divine feminine and of romance and of beauty. So we like to do our meetings on Friday. But yes, this is a free community offered to women. It would just be something that I would vet the women to make sure because our shares get very vulnerable. So I want to make sure that all the women feel safe with everybody that's in there. And so, yeah, we get together every month. It's a 2-hour conversation and it's a women's circle. And I plan to keep it free because I want it to be a space where women can come and have like a space where they can share in a safe, with other women healing their sister wound or healing their trauma. But now then the I'm doing another community with like the priestess, and this will be now more workshop styles and maybe like guest speakers. And so that will be like more of an intensive integration community. But the Sacred Sensual Sisters is open. So if anybody is interested, I mean, I know that you'll probably share my Instagram information, but they can just reach out to me personally and we can get them into the community.
Perfect. Just share your Instagram and your webpage
Oh
as
yeah,
well.
so
Yeah,
yeah, so my Instagram is Align with Mona, and that is my website as well. It's alignwithmona.com. And so across all my platforms, I'm Align with Mona. And so they can reach out to me on DM anywhere. And I have forms on my website that they can fill out. All my information to all my services and offers are on my website. But always feel free to reach out to me. I'm just so friendly. I love having one-on-one connections. And so if anybody's interested in following their journey further, or if they're seeking support or wanting guidance, I also offer tarot readings and human design readings to help align you and get you on a path that, shift you, do some little realignments. But yes, I would love to. I would love to just support whoever feels the call.
amazing. I had human design readings and tarot readings with you, and they've all been amazing. So, wow, thank you so much, Mona, for sharing your wisdom and knowledge and your own personal experience. It's been an honor to have you here on the Dancing Heart podcast, and I'm excited to keep following your journey.
Oh, thank you so much, Torny. This has been such a blessing, such a gift to be able to be here and have this conversation with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to Mona Gonzalez for sharing your wisdom and your priestess journey on the Dancing Heart podcast. If you like this episode, don't forget to share it with your friends, like and subscribe. You can also connect with me on Instagram if you have any feedback. I'm Torny Wiggum. Take care, and I will see you in the next week's episode. Bye. Ciao.